Good evening. I'm Jay Height here with our virtual gathering where we'll talk tonight about housing, and we'll be talking also about workforce development. I want to start off by thanking our sponsors at Properties, Bose McKinney, Servant HR, Oak Street Health, and CareSource for helping make these gatherings possible with their financial support. I'm going to start tonight with a friend who I've known. I was trying to figure this out, Rex, 15 years.
It's got to be. Yeah.
We met when we were both 5, and and so Rex has served at Shepherd and is now a leader in real estate here in our neighborhood, Fountain Square area, and deals with all kinds of real estate. And I'm going to just ask you some questions because housing is a huge need. It's one of my, I think, things that I hear most from our neighbors. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing families in our neighborhood around housing?
It's a great question, and it's a multifaceted challenge. I think it certainly starts with inventory in your standard, what we all had in kind of basic economics in school, where you have a supply line and you have a demand line, and our demand continues to be pretty substantial for both single family purchases and rentals. We have, if you look at homes of 3 or more bedrooms, the inventory is extremely low, and it's extremely low throughout central Indiana, but certainly in the urban context, we are seeing, I think right now in Shepherd service area, we have about 37 livable single family homes on the market that are under $200,000 and livable. That's not a ton for the demand that we have for that housing. Then we come to affordability. We're seeing, I believe the last month's numbers was a 12% growth of median sale price on homes all over central Indiana, and double-digit year-over-year increase in the rent rate. And we're certainly seeing that on the Near East Side as well. Those rentals that were going for, let's say, $600 or $700 a month 18 months ago are now pushing up $850, $900. And I expect to see those up in the mid-9s, even pushing up on $1,000 a month in 2023. So those are tremendous. Those two challenges are then being exacerbated by what builders and investment real estate companies are faced with, an increased cost of materials. I believe they're up about 36% since the pre-COVID time, and the cost of capital being up substantially is just causing a reduction in the number of permits that are being pulled, the number of houses that are being built, the number of properties that are being renovated, which is further squeezing the inventory and also driving up the cost of what is available to be had.
Rex, are we still seeing out of town business entities buying most of these homes?
I don't know that we're seeing them buy most of them. I think we are still seeing a considerable out of state and out of town investor acquisition play. Right now, you're seeing a lot of activity from those investors trying to buy out others who are in distress, who are maybe overstretched and need liquidity. If you look at a lot of the properties that are currently on the market, there are many of them that have LLC in the seller's name, there's a good portion of those that are on the market because some of the ways that these purchases have been financed are through margin loans that are receiving calls. And I think you have, some opportunist efforts to come in. And we've always seen that to some degree, but we're certainly seeing that much more. If you have a home here in 46201, 46203 neighborhoods, you're likely getting several calls a day about possibly selling your home, and that's definitely coming from mostly your out of state cash buyers.
Yeah, I get a lot of phone calls offering deals on my home. That'd be great. I just need to live somewhere, and I'm not sure where I'd go. What with inflation, with variable rates that now have skyrocketed, and those high interest rates, what does 23 look like? How does that play out in the housing market?
Well, it was encouraging to see the reports today on inflation starting to crest a bit. I think we will see interest rates level off a bit in 2023. We may see some spots where we dip into the fives. That'd be wonderful. But I expect us on interest rates to mostly be in the 6s and 7s. Inflation, I think, will still play out throughout the nation as it affects our city and state. I think you will continue to see, specifically in urban Indianapolis, scarcity of inventory and population growth continue to drive up home prices and rent rates. We just have more people moving to the urban locale here in Indy, more than we ever had. In 46201 specifically, I believe right now over last year, that zip code is up more than 15% on average sale price, up to 164 from 142 a year ago. And that's a substantial jump, but it's easy to forget that in November of 16, the median sale price in 46201 was under $40,000. So you're talking about a 420% increase in the median cost of homes in a very short time. And Jay, I think we're going to continue to see that play out in Shepherd's service area as well as the rest of the city. And the good news is we have more inventory right now than we've had in a while, certainly since pre-COVID. But prices in these areas in Shepherd's service area continue to surprise. So if you look in the Twin Air neighborhood, the top of the market there, 419 South Oxford sold it for $305, which is astounding. And currently at 406 South Dearborn, you have a home on the market for $409, which is shocking to think. I mean, those are Twin Air is an area where 4 or 5 years ago, it was not uncommon to be able to pick up a home for under $50,000 that was livable.
Yeah, and what Shepherd is doing is we try to buy homes. We currently have one that we're renovating. We have two that we helped purchase, and then families are living in that while they get their credit restored. And then in a few years, they'll be able to get a traditional mortgage and buy it from us. You helped us with a partnership with the University of Indianapolis to use rentals that they have for our families. Rex, why do you support Shepherd Community?
Well, I thought about this. I tell my kids regularly, I want you to fail. First swim meet, first dance, recital, big test at school, making lunch for yourself. Do it and be okay with it going poorly. And the reason I tell them that is the goal is not to keep from ever making a mistake. And as a matter of fact, I find often for as much for my kids or individuals and organizations that, the fear of never making a mistake is crippling. The goal is to fail and learn and succeed. And, my first week working with you, Jay, at Shepherd, you see so often, this reaction of like, we have to kind of put up the walls and we don't want any perception ever of there being the possibility that there's a failure, something that should have been done differently. And I saw you innovate and the staff team, be willing to take some of those steps. And I remember that first week asking Jay, how do you, handle people criticizing you, right? And because there's no shortage of detractors. I remember what you said. You said, we perform for an audience of one. And I think it's out of that conviction that I've consistently seen Shepherd innovate and learn and risk in order to succeed for those who need the wins the most. And that's, in my experience, that is how an organization succeeds in their mission. And I've watched you all do that. And that's why I support Shepherd, because I see how you all move in your mission and your purpose. And that you don't fear, hey, if this doesn't go well, it's not going to look good. And I think being able to look at that and move forward from a place of health and sustainability is just critical. And you guys do that very, very well.
Thank you for the kind words. Appreciate your leadership and all that you do. I'm going to talk now to my friend Jim Morris from Habitat for Humanity. Jim, I'm so excited. I want you to tell us about the special partnership we have for next year with Habitat.
Yeah, I'm excited too, Jay. Thanks for having me a part of this. We got 2 homes that we're going to do in partnership together right around the corner from Shepherd on North Denny. And their great thing is they're across the street from each other. So we already have 2 of the buyers, Lauren and Erica, for those homes, which is pretty exciting. They'll go through our home buyer education as first-time home buyers and learn the ways to be successful long-term as a homeowner. And so we couldn't be more excited as well to see that to fruition. That'll come through at the same time as your Nazarene conference coming through next year as well. So right in the summertime, they'll probably get a chance to move in, mid-late summer. The homes will be completed.
Well, we're excited about that. Single mom and a single young female, both will be by this time next year living in a home.
Yeah,
and we're I'm so excited, and that's what partnership is about. I've quoted many times Mario Marino in the book Leap of Reason. Mm-hmm. The great organizations are those that tackle issues bigger than themselves and partner with others to accomplish it. And Habitat has been a great partner with us. And so what are you seeing across the city in your perspective as the leader of Habitat?
Well, Rex touched on so many strong points, and building on what he said, we are experiencing what he said, had pointed out on a larger scale across Marion County. And just noting, even I saw in this year alone, if you think on a national scale, the percentage of first-time home buyers dropped to 26% from all buyers nationally, which is the lowest it's been in about 40 years. So you can see some of the things that Rex talked about in there, where you have, very low supply, very high demand, prices going up. And then, of course, the same amount of ability to afford a home in January of this year, right, to then advance to now diminished quite a bit. So the buying power of buyers greatly diminished with the introduction of much higher interest rates. So for us, we've had 1,000 more inquiries into our program than we did this time last year. And that speaks to kind of what Rex talked about as well. So those folks are folks who are dealing with great rent increases, and they're looking for relief by purchasing a home and having that ability to have an affordable home and a stable home. And that stability is the key. We have many of our renters are having to move frequently to be able to keep affordably, anything affordable which is then creating all kinds of challenges if they have children, they're in schools, they're going to move to different schools, and creating instability in the children's lives that they don't want, but they're having to do that to maintain affordability. So it's, we've never seen quite the level of demand that we're having knock on our doors. And also at the same time, we just saw these numbers today. In fact, 5 years ago, Rex was pointing out some of the numbers you would see just in, sales prices increasing. We're seeing it, we used to, land is a challenge. And we're seeing, 5 years ago, maybe half of the homes, we might get donated land, or we might get extremely inexpensive. This year we got zero donated land. And so we're having to buy the land, which increases our costs substantially. And then material and labor costs have gone up substantially as well. So you sort of hit all of those factors, and it's making it much more difficult to do what we do.
And I want to point out that folks can support Habitat towards the 2 builds that we have. And we're working together to raise the money necessary to get those 2 families into a home.
Yep.
And if people wanted to help on that project, what would they do, Jim?
Yeah, they could reach out to us, and we could get them dialed in at both, either like what you mentioned, Jay, which is helping to support it financially, or if they want to do sort of a yes, support financially and participate as volunteers, because we love when folks come around and walking alongside each of these households, because they'll participate in the home buying education, and then they get to actually volunteer on their own home builds. And they get to, when you strip this away, this is neighbor loving neighbor. So even those of us who may not live right next door to them on Denny, we're gonna love on them by walking. They've invited us into their lives at this point. So volunteering is another very tangible way. Millard Fuller, who founded Habitat, used to call it the theology of the hammer. And even though it's not strictly theology, it's the ability to actualize your faith through the action of participating with your neighbor on the job site.
The long-term 2030 vision for Shepherd community is to re-neighbor the hood.
Yeah.
And this is just one component of that it is. And I think then of the equity that they begin to build. And for so many of our neighbors, they've never been able to build that equity. What do you see particularly over the next year or so, challenges that you see uniquely from your role at Habitat around housing?
I think it's going to be the key area of land scarcity. It's becoming harder and harder to find property to build new and even acquire homes to rehab in a cost-effective way that is struggling to compete against the market in a way that we can get more of the families into homes for that stability. So land and or homes to purchase are going to be a challenge. And then while we're seeing some stability in the material costs come into play, it's understanding if that will stick and hold and be able to sustain itself so that we can keep costs down. And then that appreciation. So the higher that sales price, that median sales price, and Rex touched on this before, the higher that goes, the challenge has been that our incomes haven't kept pace. Even with all the, hey, we're moving to $16 an hour and $17 an hour, that's so far behind keeping pace with the ratio between median income and median sales price. And so most of our families still, can afford only what they can. So that affordability gap keeps stretching. And so our ability to offer and originate mortgages and service our own mortgages is part of that solution, and that'll continue to be a challenge to get as much as that out to our buyers as possible.
Yeah, I heard today that this from last year at this time to today, groceries are up 13%.
Yeah.
And so the very practical things that we and our neighbors spend money when they already have a challenge of finding places to shop. Rex, you and I were talking. I remember you called me one morning about 8:15 and said, hey, a house right by Shepherd just was listed at 70. We went to look at it, and about an hour later, I called you and said, yeah, let's offer 75. I asked you how much are we going to have to put into it. You said, "I'll probably 60." And that house within the day sold for 150 to an out of town investor.
Yep.
And the last time I went by it, it was still vacant.
Yeah.
Because they can't make the numbers work. And so many different challenges for our neighbors. We're excited there'll be more information coming out in 2023 about some partnerships we have and working with some other folks to help develop affordable housing and 2 and 3 bedrooms, which is so desperately needed. We appreciate the partnership we've had with INHP in helping us know how to help that. For Rex and Jim, we appreciate what you both do to help our neighbors. And it is, I think Rex has sold probably most of the Shepherd staff a home and at some point in time. But
It's been great.
Yeah, well, we appreciate the partnerships. That's why we can do what we do. We have partnerships with places like App Properties there with Rex and Jim Morris at Habitat. And I encourage folks, if you need a realtor, talk to Rex. If you want to support another great organization, Habitat under Jim's leadership is doing a great job. We're going to transition now to our workforce development, and something that Jim said, I just want to point out, Brookings Institute did a study and determined that the living wage in Indianapolis is $37.7 or $18 an hour. Well, at Shepherd, we made a commitment 2 years ago to pay our staff a living wage. But for a single mom with multiple children who is maybe making $38,000, the numbers don't add up, as Jim was saying. And they're now saying more likely because of inflation, it's probably $41.4 or $21.50 an hour. And those jobs just are not out there. But what we have to do is prepare our neighbors, our students particularly, for a changing workforce. There is now a Taco Bell in Minnesota that has no employees. You text your order, you pull up, you pay with your phone, and then a robot hands you actually get what you ordered. So that's a little different. But we have the jobs of the future are not what they are today, and helping our families be prepared for the change that's coming in what they call cobots, where many restaurants will be having that. Maybe you've been in one of the McDonald's where you order on a screen and they have no one waiting on you. These are the changes coming, and we're trying to work on that. I had the opportunity recently to talk to a former board member of Shepherd and a former employee of Shepherd who now serves on the governor's workforce development task force. She's an employee of the Department of Workforce Development for the state and was recently appointed to the governor's task force. Marilyn Pitzulo. We're going to watch that video and hear conversations around workforce development. Hi, I'm here tonight with Marilyn Pitzulo. Marilyn, you know Shepherd well. You served here for about 12 years, and then you have also served on the board of Shepherd. You work at workforce development for the state and currently are on the cabinet for the governor, workforce development cabinet. Marilyn, tell us a little bit about what's the state of employment in Indiana? What are the challenges?
Thank you, Jay. And I really appreciate you reaching out. As you know, Shepherd is a passion of mine, and anything that we can do from workforce development to help Shepherd is always going to be top of my agenda. So you asked me about some of the workforce currently in Indiana. There's just a lot going on, right? We all know that there are employers with needs for employees. And we also know we have a lot of people that are still looking for work. And there's a mismatch between the jobs that are out there and the skill set of the individuals that are still out there seeking work.
So what can places like Shepherd, where do you see us in what we do and intersecting into the family and the individual's lives? What can we be doing?
So You know, when we work with people that are looking for employment, we talk about the ABCs: a job, a better job, and a career. And what Shepherd can help with is kind of twofold, right? So we do so much on the early education side of the spectrum and helping with career awareness early on, back into, you know, elementary ages on what jobs are out there and what things are available. But then as we move through that continuum and we get to our adults and our parents, it's helping them get that A job, but it's staying with them to get that better job and hopefully helping them understand why it's really a career that they need.
Well, I think you've just described our new E2E program where we're helping middle schoolers take assessments through the state of their interest and then helping them develop a plan through high school and then exploring careers, but having them either work, do an internship, or start their own business while even in high school so that we can help them move along. How does that resonate with what you're seeing and what you want?
Absolutely. Work-based learning is an emphasis at the state, whether that is in a traditional registered apprenticeship program or some of our other non-traditional apprenticeships like state earn and learn projects. It would be a goal that every high school student has some sort of work-based learning before they exit high school. So I think what Shepherd is looking at and what you described is a perfect match.
What are the things for those on that ABC continuum? What are the things that you would want to see from us that you think could help keep people moving along? What are the challenges that they face and how do we help overcome them?
Sure. So we know there's two things that you need when you're going to go into a career. You need to be academically ready, and then you need to be career ready. So that first job, the most important thing in that first job is keeping that job. And for many of the folks that we work with, that can be a challenge. Some of those barriers have to do with internal factors that I know that I dealt with on a regular basis when I worked at Shepherd. But then it's also external factors, right? Not having childcare, the car breaking down, anything that might be a minor bump in the road to you and I is a major challenge to the people that we try to serve. So when Shepherd comes alongside a family or an individual and really helps them barrier bust, that's one of your greatest roles.
Yeah, we actually have a donor who's given us a pot of money called Barrier Buster money, where we're helping pay for a car to be fixed. We're buying them bus passes. We're getting them work boots, those types of things. As you look to 23, 24, what's coming on the horizon that we need to keep in mind around employment?
So I think with a lot of opportunity in funding coming into the state around infrastructure, looking at some of these maybe non-traditional careers that still align with the 5 primary sectors in Indiana: healthcare, advanced manufacturing, IT, transportation and logistics, and building and construction. There's going to be significant infrastructure dollars available, not just to complete those type of projects, but also to train individuals for long-term careers in those fields. Most of these, we're looking at 10 years of work projects that are going to be available. So keeping your eyes and your ears open to those training opportunities, not just for your adults, but also the students that you serve.
You know, Marilyn, we've taken the operations of Shepherd Community and said, how do we create a job training program here? And so we have folks in our operations, folks in our kitchen, folks in our childcare, and our commitment to pay a living wage is a challenge. But we want our families to be able to pay the bills, and Brookings Institute has determined a living wage in Indianapolis is $37.7. with health insurance. And so on your 1-year anniversary, whatever the position you have, you move to that 37.7 with health, vision, dental. We're trying to do our part in with the operations of Shepherd and helping move people along. And so we're excited to have part of that in-house and have a coach who's working with them to move forward. What final thoughts do you have for those who are watching this about Shepherd Community, about workforce development issues?
So when I left Shepherd Community and went to work at the state, I went to work in adult education because I really understood that a lot of what is taking place at Shepherd has to do with education, and not just the traditional K through 12. So the projects and the things that you guys are doing around, whether it is healthcare literacy, digital literacy, and employment, training people and giving them workforce readiness skills, it is the things that are critical to breaking that cycle and helping a family get on and up the economic ladder.
Well, we appreciate all you're doing for the state and so many folks across the state. Thank you for your time here, both as a staff member and a colleague, and then as a board member. We appreciate it, and thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Well, Rex and Jim, thank you for giving us part of your evening, and thank you for what you both do for our city and our community. These are just two of the areas where Shepherd is trying to make a difference. It's very foundational, making sure that they have a safe place to live, and we want to be a part of that solution. And I'm thankful to be able to work with Rex and with Jim, and really excited to encourage folks to help us with this habitat build for next year. I can't wait to see this young mother with her children and a single young lady be able to have their own home. And to continue to work and find homes that we can renovate and get families into and help them along the path to purchase that. And to keep moving folks forward on our jobs program. Just real quick, one story. We helped 5 students from Arsenal Tech get employed at O'Brien Toyota. Pat is a great friend, and he hired these young, they were going to graduate, and 4 of the 5 did graduate, and then he helped those 4 get scholarshiped into the Ivy Tech Toyota mechanics program, where in a few years they'll be making really good money. And those are the types of things we want to do. We helped raise some money so they could get the tools they need. We want to help figure out the barriers that keep them from that. And there's a lot of other companies that we're working with who are helping make employment a reality and paying a fair and living wage. Well, if you are an employer and interested, let us know. We'd love to talk to you and see how we could partner with you. People have a variety of interests, and we want to help them find their area of interest, figure out what they need to do, and then help move them along. And the same thing goes for housing. We want to help them figure out what it's going to take to get into their own place and move forward. Again, I want to thank At Properties, Bose McKinney Law Firm, Servant HR, Oak Street Health, and CareSource for sponsoring us tonight. Thank you, Rex and Jim, and thank you, Marilyn, for the recording. We appreciate folks listening and watching. Feel free to ask us any questions. We're going to continue to grow our neighbors' capacity to reduce their dependency. Have a good night.